What's up, everybody? This is Dane Thompson, Running Association, the podcast, and this is the NBA Draft Review Edition for the Central Division. And we are going through each of the divisions of the series of the NBA as we get closer to free agency. Talk about the teams in the draft, what each of the teams in the coverage, and each of the teams did for the draft. Over the last, that happened on Thursday out in Brooklyn. So this podcast will take on the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, as well as the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls over the next podcast that we're discussing here today. So let's take a look at the draft and let's look at the teams in order where we're picking from. So as far as the teams in the lottery go, you have the Chicago Bulls who didn't make the playoffs, the Detroit Pistons who did not make the playoffs. We're all picking in the lottery. Unfortunately, for the Pistons, they traded their first-round pick away in the Blake Griffin trade, and they'll be picking in the second round, so I'll get to the Pistons a little bit later in this podcast. Now, mind you, the Cleveland Cavaliers traded their first-round pick, but they did have the first-round pick from the Brooklyn Nets, so in hindsight, the Bulls and the Cavs were picking in the lottery. So let's start with the Chicago Bulls and their draft. They did. The Bulls in the first round, they had two first-round picks. They took Wendell Carter Jr. of Duke, and they also took Chandler Hutchison of Boise State in the opening round. So let's look at Wendell Carter Jr. Carter Jr. was a 6'11" big man from Duke, played in the same front line as also top second overall pick Marvin Bagley, and also teammates with Grayson Allen, who were also drafted in the first round too. So part of Duke's three-man rotation in their opening round. Carter Jr. compares a lot to Al Horford, a guy who doesn't have anything spectacular, but he does everything very well. He has range out to the three-point line, can block shots, is a really, really good rebounder. Like I said, nothing about him is outstanding, which is a good thing, because when you look at the Bulls and what they have, you know, they're a team that, looking at the future, you have guys like Lauri Markkanen, you have Chris Dunn, you have Zach LaVine, who's also in the fold going forward, and now Chandler Hutchison as well, too. The Bulls have an extremely talented group with a ton of cap space to deal with this summer. They have Bobby Portis still on the roster, and they're just extremely talented. They're very young, and Fred Hoiberg might have a team where he has going forward. So Wendell Carter is a guy that's going to come in. Like I say, he's going to be a guy that he could start right away. They still have Robin Lopez at the center position, but will definitely get a lot of minutes. And now, Chandler Hutchison, 6'7" guard from Boise State, and a guy who flew up the draft boards, and a guy I learned that he had pretty much a promise. Because after his opening workouts in the beginning process, he shut everything down. 6'7", 197, averaged over 20 points a game in his final season at Boise State. Is a very, very solid defender. He's very athletic. He can get to the ball. He also has very, very good catch and shoot ability. He's very good driving the basketball, and really, when he's in an isolation situation, he's very dangerous. He shot 42% from the floor. He's not exactly the best sharpshooter, but he did knock down a three-pointer and a half a game. Not much of a playmaker, but he's able to do things because of his draw and kick ability. Now, what does that mean for Chicago? Chicago actually has a scoring wing they have now. They haven't had one of those scoring wings since Jimmy Butler was there. And like I said, with good size and good strength and good athleticism, he can get the ball and really can attack the basket. He's really, really solid when it comes to that. Now, mind you, with his ability to drive the ball solidly, he's not very good when it comes to shooting off the dribble. He shot 18.8% on pull-ups and really wasn't much of a shot creator as far as from the mid-range ability. But what you want him to do more in the NBA is that you want to be able to drive, get more going to the basket and less turnovers. And really, he still has to hit more three-pointers. I mean, he's just struggling to shoot from the three-point line. Like I say, he shot at a 35% clip from the three-point line. And I think something he can learn to develop at the same time. He's a solid, serviceable defender. Nothing, too extravagant. He's not going to be lead the league in steals or anything like that. But he has this potential, being at the 22nd overall, picking this low, to really be, I would say, a Kyle Kuzma type of player. I mean, if anybody can do it at this pick of the draft where the Bulls got him, I think it's Chandler Hutchison. He has a lot of Kyle Kuzma type of potential, and the Bulls would love to have a guy like Kyle Kuzma on this roster. Like I said, with Wendell Carter. Now, Wendell Carter, like I said, is going to be in the situation where he's going to be dealing with Robin Lopez. But even with Robin Lopez being on the roster, Wendell Carter Jr. should have a very, very good time at the the power forward / center position for the Bulls going forward. So you look at the Bulls in their draft. I think in the second round they didn't do much in the second round. I'll get the second round picks in a second, but really I can give their draft choices right now without even looking at it. Wendell Carter Jr. and Chandler Hutchison in the first round. Like I said, very, very solid picks. I really, really like what they did with those two picks. They got guys they needed to fill holes. And when you fill holes in the draft, and especially guys that be two potential starters, I love the draft. I give the Bulls a B+, really, because really they got the small forward later in the draft. Like I said, it was a guarantee, and Wendell Carter Jr. was the best pick of that position. I don't think there was really much more the Bulls could have done better than what they got. Like I said, they got Hutchison at 22. No one really slid at that point, but B+ is really solid. Carter Jr. is not exactly the most the most dynamic prospect, but he's going to be very, very solid. And I think Chandler Hutchison has a lot of star potential. Like I said, the Kyle Kuzma type of comparison is very good when it comes to him. When you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are picking at number 8 in the opening round, they had the Brooklyn Nets overall pick. And really, the Nets pick a couple years ago was supposed to be the most valuable pick in the league until the Brooklyn Nets started winning. And then the pick didn't end up being where the Cavaliers wanted. And I'll be honest with you, this was the pick that could potentially be the one that's going to change the franchise. In this case, LeBron James walks out the door over the weekend. And with them picking 8, and it's the only pick they had in the draft. So the team went in and took the best player on the board, which was Colin Sexton, point guard from Alabama. Now, Colin Sexton has an outstanding pedigree, learning from Avery Johnson, and the guy they call the Young Bull is going to come into a team that really needs a point guard. You watch the finals as George Hill and Jordan Clarkson could not get it done against the Golden State Warriors, and Colin Sexton has a lot of young Russell Westbrook in him. Now, I'm not saying he's triple-double Russell Westbrook, but I see a lot of UCLA Russell Westbrook, a kid who can defend and is not scared to go to the basket. Sexton's not exactly the strongest shooter in the country, but his ability to get to the basket and score points is something they need going forward. Now, what we do not see much of Colin in his 1 year at Alabama is the fact of him being a playmaker. Because of the fact that he was asked to score so many points, his playmaking ability was underrated. But if you want to know about this kid's defensive ability, which I think is off the charts, go watch the tape when he shut down Trae Young when Alabama and Oklahoma played earlier in the season. That was a defensive clinic. If you want to see how good he was offensively, go watch the game against when they played Minnesota in the opening round. We played Minnesota game. It was early November, early December in Brooklyn at the tournament where Alabama lost all its players, literally down to 3 players, and Colin Sexton almost won a game with just 2 other teammates and playing 5-on-3. It was one of the best individual performances I've ever seen anybody have in a college basketball game in all the years I've watched college basketball. The Cavs didn't have a second round pick, so if I give the Cavs a grade, it would be a B. Now, mind you, I say it's a B only because they did not address the small forward situation, because the team at the same time doesn't know what LeBron James is going to do. Kevin Knox was still on the board, so is Michael Porter Jr., but like I said, they took a point guard that quite possibly could be a starter within by the end of the season, and definitely if LeBron James does decide to walk out the door, a very good piece to start going forward for the Cavs in their rebuilding efforts. So, like I said, the Pistons didn't have a first-round pick. They picked in the second round. The Pistons' 2 second-round picks, I actually really enjoy. The Pistons got really good value in the second round. They got Kyrie Thomas in a trade that was consummated with the Brooklyn Nets with the Philadelphia 76ers, and they turned back around and got Bryce Brown with their pick with the 42nd overall pick. So you look at these 2 guys and 2 guards, Bruce Brown Jr. From Miami was a defensive terror, still learning how to play offense. But the thing is, he has a lot of the Avery Bradley qualities that Avery Bradley didn't show in his 1 year in Detroit. Kyrie Thomas is a nice scoring point guard, kind of a poor man's Reggie Jackson. The good thing is, he's not Reggie Jackson's salary either. Thomas will play from Creighton, a nice combo guard, play point guard. Left school, I had him as a first-round grade. Brown, in some cases, was even being considered in the first round until he got hurt. I love the Pistons and what they did in the draft. Like I said, they got 2 really quality players in the draft, first-round quality-type players. And, for a team that, like I said, is getting out of the Stan Van Gundy era and going into the Dwayne Casey era, I love what the Pistons did. I think they really did a really solid job going forward. So I give the Pistons actually an A. Like I said, when you get two guys that are considered in the first round, and I had Kyrie Thomas at the end of the first round, and really, if Bruce Brown was not hurt or had any type of injury issue going into the draft, Brown was a first round talent. So I give the Pistons an actual A for what they did. Outstanding job. They got some backcourt help. Now can Dwayne Casey figure this out? And as smart as Dwayne Casey is, because he's the defending coach of the year, I think he figures it out in Detroit. But this is a great way to get started. The Pistons are a team that don't have much in the cap to use, and really Thomas and Brown, they might not be on the roster in the very beginning, but they're going to be in Grand Rapids pretty quickly if they're not on the main roster. But I think these two guys will have a very, very good chance of being on the opening night roster in Detroit. The Indiana Pacers were a team that we looked into the draft starting out, a team that has a lot of cap space, a team that made the playoffs, and a team that had, some questionable needs in the backcourt. Well, they got that solved by taking Aaron Holiday from UCLA with the 23rd overall pick. Holiday joins his brothers Drew and Justin on the roster going forward. I love the pick in Indiana. Darren Collison is an impending free agent this summer, but the thing with Darren Collison is that he's a very versatile guy, and Aaron Holiday is kind of a version of him. Not as good of a defender. He's not athletic as Collison, but he's going to be a nice little backup point guard, especially is going to receive a lot of minutes because Lance Stevenson is no longer on the roster. Stevenson's option was not picked up by the Pacers, and he's not going to be on the team next season. Aaron Holiday come in and have a chance to be a nice third guard in that rotation, unless they add somebody else like a Will Barton or somebody else. But Holiday isn't exactly the athletic guy as like a Victor Oladipo or a SF Collison, like I just mentioned a second ago. But what Aaron Holiday does do is Aaron Holiday can get points. And when you have a guy like Victor Oladipo who can handle the ball, and also Darren Collison, who is a point guard, Aaron Holiday does make a very, very good option for the Pacers. I had Holiday literally listed a little bit higher than this, and he is good value for the Pacers at this pick. In the second round, the Pacers took Elise Johnson, power forward from Missouri State, a guy that's going to be sitting in the G League for a little bit of time. He's a very athletic and high energy guy that's going to be that's going to potentially earn minutes in the future. I don't see him doing too much as a rookie right now, but at 6'9", 201, he was the Missouri Valley Conference Newcomer of the Year in 2017. First team all-conference the last couple years. And what he does is, what he brings to the table is to say he averaged 15 points and 11 rebounds a game last year for the Racers, and finished his career from Missouri State. I'm thinking of Murray State. From Missouri State, averaging a career 14.9 points, 11.1 rebounds a game. Not much of a shot blocker. He has a lot of Kenny Fareed in him. Like I said, a guy is just high energy, not as big as Kenny Fareed, but he has that motor that just grabs rebounds at every point in time. He's going to be a guy that's going to be a good space eater, and he's going to learn a lot from being in his time in the G League. I like the pick. So, what I give the Pacers for their picks, I give them a B. They didn't get a superstar at that point. Robert Williams was still on the board, a guy that could have helped out, especially in the interior blocking shots next to Miles Turner. But like I said, the Aaron Holiday pick was very solid. A guy that could be a nice little third guard in that rotation. And like I said, if Johnson can show a lot of what he showed at Missouri State on the next level, they might have gotten the steal in the second round. So we've talked everybody else in that division except for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are a team that has Giannis Antetokounmpo, probably the most versatile player in the league. Jabari Parker is the impending free agent. They still haven't figured out who is playing center, and they're still reeling from that playoff loss where Eric Bledsoe went completely missing in that series, being outplayed by Terry Rozier. So what they do in the first round with their pick, in the first round they took Dante DiVincenzo of Villanova, the sharpshooting guard that was the most valuable player of the Final Four, a guy that I mentioned a long time ago as one of the best, the biggest threat for Villanova to help them win the national championship. And once again, his three-point shooting and his super athleticism is going to go for the Bucks, a team that is struggling to hit from behind the perimeter outside from the three-point line, especially outside of the man named Chris Middleton. Now, I love the pick. I love Dante. He's an outstanding player. The comparisons to Bob Sir are kind of questionable, but what he does is he is a guy that's not scared of the moment. He was a sixth man that knew his role and played it tremendously. He could have went back this year to Villanova, been the superstar player, could have probably risen up even higher in the draft and potential next season, but when you strike, cold saying goes, you strike while the iron's hot. Villanova had 4 first-round picks on this roster. Omari Spellman was picked last in the first round. So Dante was ended up taken by the Bucks. Funny thing was, this will always be a great stat going forward. Great footnote is that the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks actually had a deal in place that would have traded 17 for 19 because Atlanta was really high on Kevin Huerter. But good old Twitter and social media broke the fact of the Bucks were going to take Dante at 17, and the 18th overall pick was Lonnie Walker, so the Hawks did not have to make the trade. Gotta love social media. Otherwise, this 17th overall pick would have been at 19. The Bucks would have moved down. In the second round, the Bucks did not add anybody in the second round. Now, I did know Giannis' brother, Kostas Antetokounmpo, was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers and traded to the Dallas Mavericks. I know. It doesn't have anything to do with the Bucks, but it's an Antetokounmpo. What do you expect? So what do I give the Bucks? I think I give the Bucks a C. Even though I love Dante's game and I know the Bucks have struggled from behind the three-point line, can someone please tell me who is the center for the Bucks? There's guys that could have been there. I mean, Mitchell Robinson slid. I'm not sure why he slid so far, but the Bucks could have moved down, got a big guy they needed, because John Henson is not the answer at center, and we've learned this for years. Unless Giannis is going to spend time at the center position, I don't see much more coming from him at the center position. Maybe the Bucks are going to go after DeAndre Jordan, and if that's the case, then you know what? Then the draft pick was real smart. I love Dante's ability to shoot the basketball and become very athletic, but for a team that has a lot of that right now, Tony Snell, I mean, they've used a lot of picks in the last couple of years on quote unquote college sharp shooting guards. Look what they've drafted. They traded for Tony Snell. They drafted Rashad Vaughn. None of those guys have worked in the NBA. Like I said, Chris Middleton is the only one they've acquired that's actually come up and had any type of decent basketball ability. And here's another question: where's Malcolm Brogdon in this rotation? Brogdon is another guy that was the Rookie of the Year 2 years ago and fell out of favor. He did play some solid minutes even though he was hurt, but they traded for Eric Bledsoe. So you have a lot of guys in that backcourt that new head coach Mike Budenholzer has got to figure out. But the one thing I can see about Dante is that he can be a much more athletic version of Kyle Korver in Budenholzer's system. That's how I can see Dante going forward. So tell me what you – I gave them their grade. So tell me what you think. Do you agree with what I have to say? Am I completely wrong, completely off center? Check me out at AroundTheAssociation.com as well as on Twitter at NBADT29. We're going to be coming with more types of podcasts between now and also the end of the beginning of free agency, which will take place this weekend. So check us out on Facebook at Around the Association, the radio show on Facebook, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.